Well, hi guys, how you doing? My name's Paul, this is Plan Z. Welcome to the session. If you've been subscribing, thank you very much for your support and enthusiasm. This video is requested by a subscriber, so I'm doing the, well, I say requested. He wanted to know about the Tweed. He's using a Fender Tele. Now we're going to be using a Fender Tele, a Les Paul with humbuckers, and a Les Paul with P90s in this session. And we're going to be taking a closer look at the Tweed. So here we've got a Tweed with a low, medium and a high gain. Did have the V4, but that's now a synth. And what we've got, if I bring up my gain pot, going to about 8 on the neck pickup. We're in a low gain. So let's bring up. Next to that, we've got, when that button goes red, we've got a medium gain. Now, if I bring my gain pot back, bring that gain pot back up. Let's go to the back pickup. Let's go to the high gain. Just pulling back the gain on that. Right, so before we move into the other guitars, let's look at what we've actually got going on in the signal chain. So the guitar goes into a gig rig 3-2-1. That's how I get the 3 guitars into the 1 patch. 3-2-1 goes into the input of the GT1000, comes into here, hits a noise gate. Before the noise gate, I do have a clean boost in the shape of a Centaur, drive at 0, tone +3, level at 100. Taking a little bit of lows out, and I've got direct mix coming through at 5. You want some of your direct mix coming through, so let's just go to, now here I can switch amps. So this button switches the amps, so there, when that's blue it's a medium gain. When this button is blue, it's the low gain. This amp is always set to a low gain, so let's have a look at that. So I've got the gain at 40. I've got the sag at +7, but I think I'm going to just back that off to 6 in both. I just changed that in the other patch. Hang on. Yeah, so that's what happens when the drive goes on. So yeah, in the low gain I've got the gain at 40, the sag now at 6, resonance is at 5 on all of the patches. We're going to look at 5 patches today. In the first 3 patches we're focused on EQ and amps, and in the second 2 patches, the last 2 patches, we're focused on effects. So yeah, and the level's at 75. Now I would say, depending on what cabinet you've got going on, you're going to want to play with that 75. Yeah, and when you do, watch what happens to the gain. You might want to balance your gain. You might not need to. At the moment, what we've got going on is we've got the amps here, we've got another noise suppressor, then we've got 3 EQs. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But we come out of that divide into another divide where we've got the main outs, and that's where 2 notes is. So I've got a 2 notes cab M with a ribbon 121 on the left, and I've got the same with a SM57 on the right. Okay, so we've got that in stereo. So in the next two patches we've got that in stereo. I want to talk about how I've dialed the amps in there. Okay, so this is my low gain. We talked about the front end of the amp. When we go to the EQ section of the amp, I've got the bass at 54, I've got the mids at 40, I've got the treble at 50, but presence, really you want your presence high on this. I found I really like having it there at 70. It brings through some of those lows. And I've got the brightness on. Okay, when I go to the medium amp, let's go to the EQ section of the amp. Let's engage that amp. Okay, so now we're in the medium gain. And what you should know is when this button goes red, this switches to high gain. Okay, so low gain, medium gain, high gain. In medium gain, I've got the bass at 40, the mids at 47. I'm just pushing the trebles a little bit there at 53, and again the presence and the bright are the same at 70 and on. And when I change to high gain, the mids jump up to 57. Actually, to 57, and the bass is at 40. Sorry, the bass is at 30. And I was just thinking, I wonder if there's a little too much low out of that. Yeah, I'm going to bring that bass. So I've got the amp assigned. I've covered this in a previous video, so if you want to catch up, if you've not subscribed, you don't need to subscribe, but the videos are there over the last few months. Now, what am I looking for? The bass here. So I'm just going to increase that bass to 35 for the moment. 33 is where I ended up. Now it sounds spiky because we're not in a mix. When we get into a mix, it will make a bit more sense. So I need to remember to just, let me just save that change. I wonder if the sag. No, I'm going to leave that like that. Now, then we hit noise suppression, where I've got the threshold at 50 and the release at 12. Now, in the EQs, let's turn them all off. I deal with different things at the 3 stages. So we've got 3 EQs. This is without EQ, going straight into 2 notes. Let's just pull this gain pot back a bit. Actually doesn't sound too bad, does it? But let's deal with the lows. So in here, I've got a low cut at the end. The low cut's in at 125. I'm taking out some of 500 Hertz on a Q of 4 minus 6, and I'll be taking out 315 Hertz Q of 8 minus 6, and I bump the overall level by 3 to gain stage it. I'm going to strum without it and then with it. Okay, so we've lost the lows, which is good, it's cleaned it up, but now that's exposed the highs. So let's go trim the highs, and what I do here is I do a high cut to 8. Remember, there's no low cut here, it's happening in the first one. Then I trim 5K on a Q of 4, and I'm trimming back 2 dB, and I'm doing the same. Yeah, I'm doing the same on this amp at 4K, and then I boost the overall level by 1 dB, boost the highs by 1 dB because I've cut some, and I take a little bit of extra lows out. So let's hear it with, so it should sound spiky and then it should sound warmer. It's just taking the edge off it. You want some of it in there, but it just takes the edge off. Now, this middle EQ in the 3 different patches, there's different things happening to this part of the EQ. Here is where I use a boost for the first time. In the other 2 EQs, we've been using subtractive EQ, so taking things out, but now we want to put something back in. So I've not adjusted the level here, but I have given it a boost, a 3 dB boost on a Q of 2 at 630 Hertz. It's just going to give some thump in the low. Okay, so that's how we're set here. I'm just going to save what I did there, because I can't remember if I changed anything. We're going to go into the next patch. We're going to go through these next 2 patches very quickly. So we've got the same setup. We hit the divide, and this time we've got 2 amps. So when I hit this button, we've got a separate amp each side. Now when we're split like this, this one's going into Ribbon 121, and the B amp is going into a SM57. When they're both, when it's up the middle, it's 1 amp, and it's going into both the microphones. Okay, so it's got dual mics on it when it's in a single amp, and single mics on each when it's dual amp. So what I wanted to talk to you about in this is, in this patch I've got a medium. Let's bring the gain pot up, and a low gain, but I've got the gain here much lower at 26. I'm leaving the sag where it is, because it's quite bright when you take the gain out, and it just helps take the edge off. But I've got the bass up at 53, the mids at 42, so less than in this patch. This patch they were at 46, remember, and in this patch I've just trimmed back a little bit the highs. Again, the highs came through more when I pulled the gain out, but I've got the presence and the brightness high still. Back the gain pot. So in this patch I can go from left to right. So let's go into the amp that's on this side. What I've done is the gain is the same, sag and everything is the same, but I've pushed the mids more. Yeah. And taken a bit of the bass out. So it was 53 in the other one, but here I've gone 44, but the mids are up at 56, is that? Treble is at 53, whereas the other one's at 49, but this bright switch is off. I've still got the presence up at 70, look though, ended up in the same place. Now the next thing I want to talk to you about is the EQ that happens here to help me with my stereo spread. So let's go into the spread. So on this side, I cut the 315 in the same way as I do in the first patch, but I then boost 1K by 3 dB by 2 on the Q, and I've got the low cut in here to 125 again. But on this side, I do something slightly different. I've got more of the level boosted because all I do on this side is cut. I cut the 315 but on a slightly different shape on a Q of 4 by 5 dB. I take out 1K here on the same Q by 2 dB, so we've got the opposite happening. But my low cut is only to 100, so there's a bit more low energy in there. And it gives me a really nice spread. Okay, if you want to know how I set that divide up, again I covered that in previous videos. In this EQ here is where I deal with the 500 Hertz, and I don't push anything else. Nothing else happens here. Yeah, I just take out the Q of 4 with this amp, -6, and I did the same thing with highs. Okay, but a slightly wider Q here for the 4K on this because of the low gain. Okay, so that's that patch. Let's come out of there. Did I change anything? Can't remember if I did, but I'm going to save it just in case. Now here I've got the same arrangement, but I've got the gain pushed to 60, and we're in a medium gain and go to high gain. Okay, so Same story. Got the sag. I wonder if that sag. I'm going to go 7. It sounds silly, but it's a very, in a room, it's a noticeable difference. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. I like 7 when the gain is pushed. Same resonance, same level, but I've dropped the bass to now 28, something like that. The mids are on 44 in this patch because I don't want them to fight too much with what's on the main patch here when I'm looping. And I've got the treble at 50, the bright on and the present high, and in the EQ we're doing 1.25 Hertz. Okay, so it's the same story as in this patch here, but it's 1.25 Hertz, and so it's same on this side. I take out the 1.25 Hertz, same low cut, everything. And again, the gain here is the same. Resonance, sag, everything is the same. 1 dB out on, or 1 cent out on the volume to balance, because I'm pushing the mids in this side. Remember, the bright switch is off, the trebles have been boosted a little bit, and the lows have been cut a bit more because the mids are pushed. So let's go, just save what I did there, change that, made a simple change. So that's what that sounds like in stereo, which is nice. So now what we should do is very quickly build up a very quick loop and then talk about the next patch. So I'm going to put my reverb up on full. I'm just going to go neck pickup. I'm just going to play in some stabs with beat and bass. And I'll do a round and then I'll take a loop on the second round. We've got those, we're going to use this patch to put in another little lick. Okay. I'm going to go to the low gain, stick on the wets. Just want to adjust the volume of that on the guitar. I'm just going to bring up the gain pot. There we go. Now we've got the stabs there on the low gain. Let's just go to the low gain again, stick on the clon, and just a slap back reverb, see what happens. P90s. Just going to pull back those rhythm guitars there. Let's same on GT1000, gonna come in on the neck pickup. Those first loops, we're going to try a slightly different loop where we're going to use some effects on the amp, see how it responds. It's got an auto wah. I'm going to take a loop. To a low gain, stick on a fuzz, take off the effects, go to the back pickup, we've got that in there. Let's go to the low gain. Neck pickup. Okay, so I'm just going to pick up the Les Paul. And we ended up on the back pickup there of the P90. We're coming in on the neck pickup. We're going to leave that clon on, but the gain on the guitar about 7. So there we're going to stop for a moment and we're going to change tune. But before we do, we're just going to look at something here. Terra, the Terra Echo. So we've got a similar setup going on with the amp, only I've got the amp on a low gain 20, levels up at 75. Mids are boosted here. Let's go to the dry channel. Bring up the gain pot. Actually, before I was just thinking, before we go into this, we should hear this guitar. Okay, so let's go back into this patch. So what's going on is we've got an amp that's cleaner with the mids being pushed, but when I land on the patch, I land on it wet. And what's going on, I come in and in the wet channel I hit a divide where I'm taking out all the frequencies below 315. So I put a high pass filter in on both sides, and I'm taking the high pass filter so everything above 315 is in, everything below is gone. Now a dry signal goes through into here, and on the right side it hits, I think it's a reverse delay. Yeah, I put a reverse delay in. It's on a short time, but when we come out the mixer, I've got the spread at 50 and I'm on left right, so this is to maximize the spread. And what I want to do, let me just want to swap that around and see what happens. You won't know the difference yet, but we're going to look at that maybe. So I'm just going to bring through 30% of the mix. Right, so what's going on here is we've got a Terra echo and a flanger. So the delay is now going into the flanger, where I'm running that with just a bit of the dry coming through as we put. I'm not going to talk too much about the effect there. You can dial that into your own heart's desire. What I want to talk about is this space echo, not space echo, this Terra echo. Now I've got it set so when I hit this button it changes the spread time. When it's green it's 10, when it's blue it's maxed. Now the expression switch or pedal on the side is also managing the level and the feedback here separately, okay? So when the level is back and I'm on spread time low, when we're in just the wet channel it sounds like this. If I add my dry to that, okay, if I extend the expression switch or pedal, we get this. Okay, so something about it is quite eerily beautiful for me. But what's interesting is when you switch this, so the spread time now has gone up, you get this. Trickly, trickly, the side of our ears in headphones, lovely. Now, how I intend to use this is atmospherically, which is why I have it set to when I land on it to be just wet. And what we'll do is in a little minute I'll show you how I plan to use that. Saving that as it is, we're going to go into the next patch where I want to show you how I've used the divide at the front end. Now when I land in this patch we're on a medium gain, where, what am I doing here? Again, we've got the mids being boosted a bit more here, but I've got a compressor on. If I take the compressor off, we've got this. Put the compressor on. So I'm using an orange squeeze to push us into distortion. Tack is up a bit, the sustain is in 50, the level is at 60, the tone at 0, ratio 2:1, direct mix coming through at the tune of 30, and we come into a divide where what I'm doing is engaging an octaver, but here I'm using the high pass filter on the dry channel, which goes above and into a noise suppressor. The dry channel, I've got the high pass filter, so everything above 160 Hertz, and going off into the octaver, everything below 315 Hertz. Okay, so a low pass filter. Okay, and what that sounds like is like this. Let's go to the low gain. Now I've actually got a fuzz I can crack on. Now I've got it on mono fuzz, so I shouldn't be trying to play chords. Let's see what happens when we change that. So let's change to the polyphonic, and what we'll do is, yeah, it's only the one page. So here I could leave it with chords. I think I might leave that like that, you know. I like that on poly. It gives me a slightly different vibe. So let's turn all that off for a moment. All that's happening on the reverb is a slapback pre-delay, 120 there on the pre-delay. Very little time coming through on a hall 1. So a very simple patch, this first one, to get us, simple set of patches to get us up and running. So let's look at how, first off, what have I got there? Let's go here. So I just want to show you quickly before we head into the next jam, which I'll do. It won't be a very long jam. I just want to kind of play you two different riffs over the same thing, so you can kind of get a feel for two different things that are a bit heavier. What we're going to do is we've got the loop back up with our bass, and I'm just going to take a loop of the wet. So I'm just going to play some atmosphere in to start. Okay. Ready to take a loop. I'm going to take a loop on the next round. Okay, so I've got my loop. And it's just nice to have that in my track. I can now build around that should I want to. So let's do something random for a moment. Let's go off to where the other amps are, but let's go to an acoustic sim. I covered this in the last video, so I won't go into the settings, but let's just drop it in. Take a loop. down to our tweeds. What shall we go with? Crazy at the end there, I forgot I left that up, my feedback on this patch. Okay, so now I want to try doing something slightly different. Oh, sorry, hit the wrong foot, hit the wrong button. Right, so we're now changing the loop. So we've got the same beat bass, but a different bass line. And normally I go to drop D, but before we go to drop D for this riff, I want to try playing it in using, let's try this. Let's stick a low gain first, going to stick some wet. Going to go to the back pickup, just roll back the gain a bit. Going into the other ear, and I'm going to take a loop. I'm going to try a little something I was playing around with earlier. I might mess it up. So now I'm going to go to a driven medium gain and boost it with a tube screamer. Stick on a light reverb. Try to take a loop. Got that in without incident. Let's go to the high gain here. we've now got, if I bring the beats to a close, sorry that got sloppy and messy there, a lot going on with the hands, and the camera's slightly in the way, I can't turn properly to get to where I need to get to. Right, so what we're going to do is stop moaning and hit play on the first loop I took where I was tuned in E. Okay, and then I'm going to switch it to the loop I took in D. Okay, so hopefully in this session we've heard 3 different guitars through 5 different patches, giving you a few ideas for effects in this one, these 2, but you've had a feel for the twin and, you know, what I've been able to do with it, just bringing it up as a template. Let's just pull that onto the low gain. Let's put our chorus on. Let's try this patch, low gain. Just going to let that feed off. Okay, I'm going to do the same with this one. Just going to pull back the gain pot there to about 7. Okay, so if you want to know what's going on with the wet channels in these first 3 patches, I've covered them in previous videos over the last month. I will go and have a look for those. Yeah, hopefully that you found that useful and it sounded alright. I'm going to listen to it, hopefully be able to post it. I'll catch you soon. Take care. Bye bye.